Okay, we are live on YouTube, and we shall soon be live on Amazon. All right, there we go. The streaming has begun. So today, I am excited about this one because we have been on the lookout, or on the prowl, if you will, for a projector that was compact yet bright. That was the objective. And we couldn't find one that was compact and bright because they all use these LED bulbs that were not that bright. So recently, and I bought this with my own funds, in case anyone's wondering, Anker, who does the Nebula brand, who makes a lot of these popular projectors, which are very compact but not bright, decided they would try to make a bright one. So this one is powered by a laser. It's got freaking lasers in it. And this is significantly brighter. They are saying, if I'm not mistaken, let me pull up my notes on this device. It's expensive, but I got a good deal on it because I did the Kickstarter before they made it commercially available. This is the 1080p one, by the way, because they have a 4K one that costs a fortune. So I decided that I would stick to the cheaper one. So I saved I think I saved like $600 buying this when I did, which is significant, right? But this one is powered by a laser. And if I go on my Amazon link, I will get the exact lumens that they are claiming it can do. So their lumen value on this sucker is 2,400, which is like 2,000 lumens more than their other one. And their other one was okay, but like when you have a room, so this is what we're going to test it against, this blank wall here. And when you have a room like this where everything is lit, it's hard often to get a good image unless you turn off all the lights and do all that kind of stuff. So presumably, this will do better. And we'll see. I'm going to get my notes up here so that I don't forget to include things in the review. So that is the game plan. We're going to unbox this and figure it out. Oh, wait a minute. Michael Kidd, you are right. You know, I bought the 1080p one, but this one says it's 4K. Did I get the 4K one without having to pay for it? Holy mackerel, I think they did. They sent this to me by accident. Because I did not pay for the 4K one. Wow. How about that? Geez, okay. Well, we'll see what I end up with when I open it. I have a feeling that maybe they didn't have enough of the 1080p boxes. I don't know. But you're right, I just noticed that. But here on the tech specs, it says, and what I'd like to do with these two is let's peel the label off and see what's underneath the label here. Because you never know what they were intending to have it do first. So Android 10 DLP. So it's DLP, but it uses a laser for the illumination. And so they were calling it, oh, interesting. 2400 ISO lumens, same thing. So I wonder what's changed here. DLP. Oh, maybe unless I'm not, I'm still on the sticker. Let's see if I can get some of these stickers are in there pretty good. I'm guessing the brightness is where they were. Oh, okay, so, interesting. So they initially said ANSI lumens, but, all right, so let me look at this real quick now, because there's a difference between ANSI lumens and ISO lumens. So this is the problem with brightness. It's so hard to, so an ISO lumen is the international standard for measuring projector brightness. And then ANSI is probably a different standard, although I'm guessing it's similar. We'll have to look into that. But this is crazy because I know that I only bought the 1080p one, and they don't know, they wouldn't know who I was from the order. So we'll have to see what we end up with here. So I'm going to just log into my account real quick for my document. I'm keeping a document on all this stuff. I have a feeling that this is not the 4K one, that it just ended up with the 4K box, but we'll see. If they screwed up, that's great for me. All right, let's go and what's going on here? Oh, come on. Bear with me, folks. Just want to add my, this is why I switched away from Chrome because they keep pushing you to log into a different account, like a different session. I like to have all my accounts in one browser family here. So it always bugs me to, hey, switch to this. Okay, so the price on this, so I paid $1,000, which for a projector this bright I think is not a bad price, especially a laser projector. We'll see what the image quality looks like. So I paid $1,000, presuming that I was getting the 1080p version. The box says it's 4K. Now the 1080p is $1,600 and the 4K is $2,100. And like before, as we said, you know, the market for a laser projector at this brightness, legit brightness, is much higher than that. So even though it's expensive, you're getting, you know, a decent projector for the price, in my opinion. But we shall see. All right, so it's 2400 ISO lumens. Need to compare that to ANSI lumens and how the testing differs. Nothing's easy. That's what I mean. These projectors are always filled with all sorts of weird claims. So yeah, so I don't know exactly which one we're going to have in this box. So why don't we figure out how to open the box, and then we will find out for sure. And I got to get my little cutter thing out. And I think what I might do is record a unboxing video. I got some friends joining me here. Let me say hello to some people first. We have Michael Kidd is here. Romeric is here. Michael says the holy grail of projectors is small, bright, high-res, and inexpensive. This might tick all the boxes, but not inexpensive. Andy G is here. He likes Anker. David Langley is here from the UK. And we just started, Christian, so you are right on time, and I think we just talked about the price. Good afternoon, Flood of Sins. NC Strev is here from Maine. Paul is here from the UK as well. Recipe Bob is here. What's up? What's up? Remember that commercial? What's up? And JJ Mart here is here as well. Yeah, so there is a 4K one and a 1080p one. And like I said, I thought I had bought the 1080p one, but apparently the box says it's 4K. And if I ended up with the 4K one, so be it, right? I think they sent me the wrong one by accident. I'm just looking on the box here. Yeah, it's hard to say which one it is. This from the box. There's a SKU ID. I don't know. Oh, we'll find out when we open it. I don't think there's a battery in this one, by the way. It doesn't have the battery warnings. The other Anker projector has a battery. But I think the power consumption is going to be greater on this one because of the laser mechanism. And they also say that you'll get 25,000 hours out of the lamp. So we'll see what we end up with all of this. And the Amazon link is in the description if you want to see this on Amazon. And Mr. T-Bone says, finally, freaking lasers. Yes, we got lasers here. Trek T is here. Aaron Reynolds is here. Could support 4K, but not. Yeah, so if it is the 1080p one, which is what I paid for, this will support, I can't believe I ended up with the 4K one. It will support 4K as a downscale. I would imagine it would. But if it's the real 4K one, it's the native resolution is 4K, which is why it costs as much as it does. But compared to other 4K projectors, $2,100 is a good deal. But yeah, the resolution, native. So they say. So we'll see. It has Android TV built in also. It's like the full package, like whatever you want is in this thing. All right, so I'm going to record an unboxing, I think, because why not? And let me get my recording set up here to do that. So we'll say Anker projector. And I've got a busy week next week, folks. I've got 2 New York trips to do, day trips, in and out. So we're going to be a little light on content for the next week. I got to work a little bit on the weekend. My understanding is I'm getting a lot of questions about whether it's native versus shifted. It looks like this is native. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to look up like from Projector Savvy, which is a Oh, that's the wrong one. Hang on a second. Let's find the right one. This is the Nebula Cosmos 4K. Let's see. They've got a million different, there's a max one, which is laser, but not the same as this one. Let's see, laser. And this just came out. And it doesn't look like I've got the full scoop on this yet. I will find out about that. My intention was having the 1080p one, so I don't know. I don't know what I ended up with. But we will find out as we go through this. All right, so we're going to do an unboxing. I'm just going to kind of I'm going to record, but I'm going to let it just kind of roll, okay? And if you have questions, leave them in the comments there. The price is not pinned, but if you click on the link, it'll take you right over to Amazon, so you can see all the details. All right, so let me put it in the chat here. And you know what? The live stream experience is better on Amazon, I think, than YouTube. So I think the link is working. If it isn't, let me know. I hate to do that to you all, but the Amazon thing is good stuff for the channel. Okay, let's get the show on the road. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and it's time for another unboxing. We have been on the lookout for a projector that was compact and bright, and this one might be a compact, bright projector. This is the Nebula Cosmos laser. Now, I paid for and ordered the 1080p version through their Kickstarter campaign. But what showed up is the 4K one, at least on the box here. So I don't know what exactly I've got for resolution, but they have a 1080p version and a 4K version. And they're promising 2400 ISO lumens, which is significantly brighter than any of their other projectors. This is not an inexpensive device, but compared to other laser projectors of this resolution and brightness, it actually is pretty competitive compared to others in the marketplace. And we're going to have a full review of this, but today what we're going to do is unbox it so you can see what it looks like, and I'll give you a brief look at what it looks like projected against a wall, and then we'll put it in to a more concise review coming up soon where you can get all the details. And if you have questions, definitely let me know. All right, so let's get this thing out of the box here. We'll begin with the projector itself and the accessory kit. So this is the projector all wrapped up. And again, they have a 1080p version and a 4K version. So in the accessory box here, I'll give you the overhead view. It looks like, oh, we've got, so they have a dongle for the Android TV component. And actually, they sell this separately. And I was going to review it, and I wasn't crazy about it, at least for a home theater device. But I think it'll work okay on a projector. The reason why this is separate is that I believe Netflix doesn't allow projectors to have the Netflix app built in. So you're going to see a lot more of these separate dongles. And you can also, of course, just install your own or plug in your own to the HDMI ports that we'll see in a minute. Here's their little thing here, making sure that you're happy. You've got some batteries for the remote control for that Android dongle. And then we've got the power cable. What's interesting is that there does not appear to be a power brick, so I'm guessing the power supply is internal, which makes it a little bit easier to transport. And here's the unit itself. Looks very nice. So this is it. Very compact. It weighs about 10 pounds, and that equates to roughly 4.72 kilograms. So it's definitely on the larger side of compact projectors, but I like the fact that it is pretty easy to carry around, and everything is internal to the device here. You just have to bring your cables with you. In the back here, we've got that power supply as we expected. You also have an HDMI input, a USB port. I don't know what that's for. We'll test that out a little bit in the review. And then an auxiliary audio port, presumably for plugging in audio. This looks like a fan exhaust here, and there are some buttons here on the top. So pretty simple, your basic projector in a box here. And again, about 10 pounds, but I think it's kind of nice to just have everything self-contained and the power supply is built right in. So what I'm going to do now is get this thing set up, and we'll take a quick look and see how bright it is in a pretty well-lit room. All right, that should suffice for a for an unboxing, right? DR is wondering, is there a brightness difference between the 1080p and the 4K version? No. So the brightness is the same. It's just the resolution that's different. And let's see what we get here. Mr. T-Bone says it's not a great price. You can get, for a few hundred more, you can get a UST. What is a UST? Being luggable. So it must be a different brand name. I'm not too up on my projectors. Let's see, UST, oh, ultra short throw projector. Got it. Yeah, so this one is about $2,400 for the $2,100 for the 4K version. I don't know what. Yeah, look, they sent me the 4K one. I only ordered the 1080p one. Looks like somebody messed up in the warehouse. Look at that. I'm not complaining about that. I got a good deal. I mean, I got a really good deal. Because I paid for this just like anyone else would. This is not, this was not a freebie. All right, so this is laser technology. And Keith Robinson loves these. Keep doing these. I love doing the lives. They're a lot of fun. Yeah, follow me on Amazon too. And first of all, thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. Yeah, definitely follow me on Amazon. Amazon does a better job of notifying people. And here's the crazy thing. So I bought this on their crowdfund. So they usually crowdfund these before they release them to the general public. I paid $1,000 for this. And I mean, seriously, what a deal. Okay, yeah. And see, they might try to claw this one back because, like I said, I am certain. I checked this morning. I ordered the 1080p one. So, yeah. Every once in a while, the warehouse oopsie is in my favor. So there you go. Yeah, isn't that crazy? I'm pretty sure I did not order the 4K one because I was looking at it. I was like, you know what? Here, I'm going to show you my other camera here. I said, you know what? I don't need the 4K because my other projector is about 10 years old. It still works, but it doesn't get the full depth of resolution that my computers can do. So I wanted to kind of do an upgrade and have something that would work with all my modern equipment. And I always find myself having to do presentations. I'm active in different things. I just got on I'm helping out a local agency. It's kind of a neat agency. We're doing converting old buildings into affordable housing, but it's a nonprofit, so the rents are actually really reasonable, and they're doing some amazing work. They just renovated this commercial structure in my town, and it's beautiful. Like, they turned it into like a really wonderful mixed-use thing. So I'm eager to kind of help out with that. All right, so let's power it on here. I'll adjust my camera once I get everything fired up. We'll see how loud the fan is too. All right, here we go. It's not that loud yet. We'll see what happens when it loads up. But that dongle is separate, so the other ones had it built in. Enlightening your world with lasers. And apparently if you walk in front of it, it will, it's focusing itself right now. If you walk in front of it, it will turn off the light so it doesn't blind people. At least that's what they say it does. All right, so let's let that boot up for a second. To be honest, I was expecting it to be a little brighter when we got it hooked up here, but we'll see. And this is not a short throw, so you do have to move it back a bit. All right, projector settings. You can correct or customize. Okay, so let me go through the startup procedure here. Yeah, Aaron says the person that yeah, somebody's going to be upset. I fully expect I'll be getting a phone call because this is a big error to send me this one instead of the other one. All right, give me a second here. We're going to play around with this. Eric is wondering, does it require a white screen on the wall? Yeah, you definitely want to project it against something white. That will give you the best image. Matt, thank you for the kind words. And the room lights are on. So that was part of the test here, is to see how well this will do with the room lights on. And what I'm going to do, once I get it set up and we get everything configured, what I will do is get my camera adjusted to what I see. Because right now it's a little bit brighter than it looks like to you at the moment. All right, you can correct the image or customize your device in projector settings. Press the settings button on the main unit, which is here. OK, here we go. Yeah, so you'll notice that it's telling me to use the unit and not the remote. All right, so let's go to picture. Because it's a little out of focus, but it could just be my eyesight is starting to go. All right, so the brightness is at 100%. So I will say it's not as bright as I was expecting. It's brighter than the other ones, but not like super bright. Okay, so I'm just going through some of the settings here. There's the HDMI mode, Bluetooth speaker mode. Let's see what the advanced settings are here. So language. It looks kind of like an Android interface, doesn't it? I wonder if it's got like a version of Android that's running on it here. Oh, so the remote does work. All right, prerequisite. Following the Android TV guide and selecting Nebula as the brand of your TV. Oh, I see. Huh. Yeah, so it's kind of a disjointed experience. And there is an app, of course. All right, so we're going to let it boot up. And I'm expecting to see nothing at the moment. Oh, please insert your dongle. OK, so the dongle goes in here. Oops, I just turned it off. Turn it back on again here. So the dongle goes in this door here. So you have to push it up and then insert the dongle. And oh, it's got like a, aha, now I understand why when I was going to review this dongle, why it has a micro USB connector, or a little micro HDMI connector. So yeah, let me go and adjust the camera angle here. Yeah, I'm pretty surprised, to be honest with you, because like I said, I bought the other one, and I didn't even reach out to them. So this was not like, I don't think they're doing me any favors here. Okay. All right, so we're going to get the remote control set up here, because we're going to get the dongle installed. And there will be a software update soon, or to install, because we will need to install that. Yeah, so far the fan noise, Dennis, is not bad. It is it is there, you can hear it, but it's not bad. And I will say it's brighter than what it looks like to you right now. So the next thing we'll do after we get everything set up is I'll go in and adjust that a little bit. Yeah. Is that what it says? It does say that, doesn't it? Can I? Let me take some B-roll of that. You know what I'm going to do actually is, that's funny. Oh my goodness. What do they call it? A double entendre? All right, so let me get the, adjust the camera a little bit here. So I'm going to adjust the exposure slightly so that it's closer to what I see with my eyes right now. So I'm going to go to, I have one of these, so exposure is on manual. And let's see what I can, oops, manual. Oops, off on that, iris. All right, so let me get it to where it looks somewhat close to, oops, shoot. It keeps going back to, I bet you know what's happening is this thing is overriding it maybe. I'm just going to get it to where it looks about the same as what I'm seeing. So give it a little bit of, yeah, not too much gain there. Let's do, my camera is being very temperamental right now. I think I have to, I've got a million firmware updates to do on everything, and I have a feeling that this camera needs a firmware update. But so far, so good. So let's get this adjusted here. You know what? Bear with me, folks. I am going to disconnect this input. I have like two things connecting to this camera, and I have a feeling that one of them was causing this. All right, so let's get the iris adjusted here. Yeah, it keeps going back to full auto. All right, bear with me for a second here, folks. We'll get this figured out. Manual. Yeah, it's going to give me a lot of trouble, isn't it? Nothing ever. Oh, I see what's happening. All right, so let me close out of this. I think what's happened here is I've confused my camera with too many connections. So let me close this and reconnect the other one. But please, yeah, please insert your dongle for Explore All Entertainments. That's great. All right, now my camera is not looking to communicate with me. All right. 1 second. There's always a technical glitch that comes into play when I do these things. And what happened was I said, oh, there's a new camera control app for my camera. And then I get that installed, and now look what happens. So let me do, that's the one. Okay, so we're going to go back to version 2.0.9, which is what worked the last time I had the camera here. Okay, so we're going to go over to exposure, camera settings, auto for, okay, manual, that's the focus. Hang on a second. Gain, aha, here we go. Okay, so let's go back to this. I'm trying to get this to where it looks similar to what I see. And so I'm just going to adjust things until it's pretty close to what I'm seeing. Now what you're seeing here, this is one of the hard parts about recording a projector like this, because this is a DLP projector, so you're going to see this waviness going through it. And what I could probably do is adjust the shutter speed, because as I adjust the shutter here, as you can see, if you can get it in sync, but it's never quite perfect, so you're going to see this constant line kind of running through it. So I might try to adjust down the gain. This is what I mean, like, this is why it's so hard to do projector reviews, because it's really difficult to give the viewer a real experience as to what it looks like, right? So I might try it here and then boost the gain slightly. It just doesn't look as, it looks brighter to me in person. And so this is something I struggle with all the time when I do this stuff. Yeah, that looks, in context with the rest of the wall, that actually looks pretty close now. And I think what I'm going to do is move it back a little bit in a few minutes, because it's not a very big window right now. All right, so let me just record an additional thing here. 3, 2, 1. Now I do have a correction. It looks like the dongle that comes with the projector is installed in the back, and as the instructions say, please insert your dongle and explore all entertainments. So I'm going to insert the dongle now and see how it works. That's called playing it straight, the straight man, right? Was that funny? And yes, we will. I will look at gaming, and I will test the latency on it. Now, my methodology is not as good as my friend Retro RGB can do, but we'll see what we've got. And Jolt Dude says someone was trying to, yeah, this happens, right? It always happens. Like, you'll have things just kind of glitch out on you. Now, in this case, it was just my camera. And I think what's interesting is that when you look at it this way, here, let me get the, when you look at it this way, it doesn't give you the context for the brightness until you see what the rest of the room looks like. And so this is closer, I think, to what I'm seeing. Like I said, it's really hard to get it right. So what I'm going to do, I think what I can do is just explain it in the full review how the dongle goes in. If you're curious, this is what the dongle looks like. And I just bought one of these to review separately, and I returned it because it was not a very good home theater dongle. But it has a micro HDMI on one end and a micro USB on the other for power. And this is the remote. So it does integrate the dongle. We've seen this with a few other projectors. The one that we looked at from BenQ does the same thing. So let's get that battery installed. Sigmund says, is there a type of projector I would suggest? You know, if you're looking to do a background on a set, I would get a television. That's what I would do. Because you have a fixed refresh rate, it'll work a lot better. In fact, I was just at a cable access studio the other day, and they were pretty good. Mark Smith says, a split screen of direct connection and projected image. See, that's hard to do also because I think people would understand what the I see what you're saying, maybe from the standpoint of what color would look like. That might be a good way to do it. All right. So let's see what we can do here. Matt Buckmaster says, lighten up. All right. So let's plug it in. Let's insert our dongle and see how it works. Because after I insert my dongle, it says that I should be able to explore all entertainments. But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why they've been separating these things into dongles, because the projector is going to last a lot longer than the dongle will, for sure. All right, so the HDMI is on the bottom. So we're going to put that in the bottom here. And the USB is on the top. And then we're going to insert my dongle. All right. My dongle has been inserted. And now we're going to snap that in place and turn her back on. And so now what should happen is the dongle should boot. Yes. So you can see that's going on there. Yeah, so I will say at the outset that this is definitely brighter. What I have to do now is, I got the remote good, okay. There we go. And do I have an Android phone? Well, I do have an Android phone, but which one has a charge? I don't think any of them do. Let me see, because if I have an Android phone, this will be a lot faster to set up. So I have one there. Where is my Pixel phone? Because otherwise I got to type the password in and all that kind of stuff. Actually, you know what I'm going to do too is plug in my Lenovo keyboard thingy, because that, here we go. So let's see if this USB port on the back here is mapped to anything. So I'm going to turn this on, switch it into Android mode. Let's see if we, yeah, good. All right, so that USB port is a pass-through to the dongle. And I'm just going to skip that right now, because now I have a keyboard, so I can just get this set up a lot quicker this way. So I will say the brightness is there, for sure. But it's a little bit easier here because I have a keyboard that I can just use it across the way. So I have my ThinkPad keyboard here, which has a little dongle on it. This has Bluetooth also, but it works really well. It's like my go-to keyboard because it's nice and compact. It has the track point built in. It's slick. So I'm going to connect it to my Wi-Fi network, and I will get it set up. There's a firmware update for the projector and the dongle that I think we have to do first. So we will let that run through. Yep, so it says here, here I'll zoom in. Can I connect? Nope. So it is telling me that there is a firmware update. So why don't we download and install. So you can see how bright that is. That's kind of blowing out the camera a bit, right? So I'm going to have a hard, I think I'm going to have a hard time getting this camera adjusted for the right thing, but we'll find out. So I'm guessing the Wi-Fi is, obviously the Wi-Fi is built into the dongle. But I was curious why they were selling a Android TV box when it's such a saturated market, but it's probably what it is. Okay. So we will wait for the firmware. This is a constant theme on our channel, right? Let's let the firmware do its thing. But yeah, it's definitely brighter. I guess I would, you know what I'll probably do for the regular review is maybe I'll set up the other one, the non-laser one, to show you the difference. Because I think what you see here is pretty close to what I'm seeing with my eyes right now. So it's definitely brighter. You know, and I also wonder from like the human standpoint, you know, at what point is there a diminishing return on the increase in lumens, right? So for example, normally a projector of this size would be like 500 lumens or 400 lumens. This one they say is 2400. So like where, like, you know what I mean? Like what is brighter? Is it just the white brightest parts that are bright, right? I mean, could you be at a level where something that's supposed to be close to black is not going to benefit from a lumen boost? It might get washed out by your lights in the room. So that's what I'm kind of curious about here. But we will let this firmware go, and I'm sure it'll have to reboot. But yeah, I think this it's definitely much. I'm looking at it across the way here. Now, granted, my 45-year-old eyes need corrective vision at this point, but I will say it is noticeably brighter. This room is bright, so in addition to the overhead lights over there, we've got light coming in from the backyard, and my windows face south, so the maximum light is coming into the room right now. So I have a door over there with a window on it. In fact, I can show you the conditions right now. So let's take a little pan here, so you can see that door there is where the light's coming in, and then there's overhead lights up here as well. This is my PTZ camera. Isn't that cool? I love PTZ cameras, especially for this kind of stuff. And this is an NDI camera from Bird Dog. They're very convenient. All right, so let that firmware update go through, and then we'll look at some we'll actually look at some YouTube, because that's that I can show you without getting arrested or kicked off the platform, if you will. All right, we're going to let this run its course here. And Matt makes a good point that DLP projectors don't have great black levels to begin with. Yeah, and it also depends on what you're projecting against too, right? Because theoretically, we are projecting against white, so it can't project, like it blocks light to get black. So if you do have ambient lighting like we have now, that's obviously going to bleed through unless you're totally dark, right? So there's going to be a limit, I think. But I think we should see a good amount of color when we get, or a good amount of idea of what this brightness level will get you once we look at something legit. But yeah, we're definitely going to shut off the lights, no question. The reason why I'm curious is that, the big selling point of going up to a laser projector like this is that you are getting something that can be used with more ambient lighting. So that's kind of what I was eager to try first, is to see, okay, so in a room that's lit normally, what can this thing do, right? And so that's kind of what we're experimenting with at the moment. And then, of course, we'll turn the lights off and see how it looks. Like I said, it's actually a little, this is a tough exposure problem for my camera, right? Because the camera doesn't have a high dynamic range. So in order to not blow out what's on the screen, I am turning down the exposure slightly. So it actually is a little brighter back there than it looks. So this is what I mean, like, it's so hard as a reviewer to explain the brightness, because you have to be able to show it, but it's not, brightness is really, it's hard for a camera to replicate how your eyes would see something in a room, basically. So what I see on the wall is close to what you see here, but the room is actually a little brighter. So in other words, the image is brighter against the wall. Like, the room is brighter and the image is the same. Let's put it that way. So I can see the same contrast of the image, if that makes sense. So I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to explain that. Right, so Chuck has a good point here. So with projectors, your black is determined by how dark your room is, exactly. So that's, and because you're on a white background. And this is something that we did a whole video on, about the overstating the lumen output. And what I found, you can find this video, there was this one projector, what was it, the Jim Bob or something? I kid you not, that was the name of it. And they tried to bribe me to take my review down. But they were totally BSing the lumens. They were saying that their projector, which was like $200, had 5,000 lumens. This thing, which is like, again, I ended up with the 4K one, even though I paid for the 1080p one. This one is claiming 2,400, which, to be honest with you, looking at it, I would say it's probably in that ballpark. But the Jim Bob, where they got the number from, is they held the light meter up to the lens. That's not how you're supposed to measure lumens. Lumens is measured by a certain, or ANSI lumens, or this one's ISO lumens, not ANSI lumens. We're going to have to look at that distinction. They require you to get the projector to a certain distance away from the projection screen, and then you measure points on the projection screen for the brightness of those points coming from the projector. And that gives a determination of what its lumen rating will be. But there's a standards body which determines how to do this test, but you have to rely on the manufacturers to be honest about it. And that's kind of the tricky thing. NC Strev says, in my industry, we use a meter to measure reflected white light. Exactly. Yeah, and I would need a better projection screen here, too. Keith was wondering, did I get any more backlash? No, they kind of gave up. They did. I did hear from like 2 different people, so they both tried to make the same offer. But I wanted to make that video because I think it's important for people to know that the reason why some things don't have a lot of bad reviews is because they pay people to take them down, which is awful. And Roma says the projector is running Android. Yeah, it actually has an Android dongle that we just installed in the back. So we'll see what we get here. So we're just going to let that do its thing, and then we'll see how it does. And I've got a Nintendo Switch to plug in. We'll take a look at some YouTube videos. And I think what I might do with this also is take it out in the front of my house. I have a garage with white garage doors. And just project it against that. And Roman, yeah, Amazon got rid of a bunch of companies that were. Yeah, they really cracked down, which I'm happy they did, because reviews are really important for people when making buying decisions. All right, well, let's just reboot. Yeah, so, and just to talk about this a little bit, it is expensive, as Alan Clark points out here, and AJ has one that he's very happy with. Yeah, it comes down to ultimately brightness level in a lit room. So, the projector that AJ's referring to, $850, not cheap, right? But he's happy with it. It's 800 lumens, but if you're in a dark room, 800 lumens is fine, right? And I'm going to just log into my account here. And so for me, oh, guess what, everybody? Another software update. For me, what I wanted was something, because I go and present at places, right? I never know what room I'm walking into if I'm doing a presentation. So I wanted something that was brighter than 800 so that I didn't have to worry as much about the lighting conditions. And my last projector was, it's an Acer that I bought 10 years ago. It's still fine, but its max resolution is like 1024 by 768. So it's not up to 1080p even. And you can run 1080p through it, but it just doesn't downscale very well. The thing was made, actually it's more than 10 years old. I bought it in 2007. But it's bright. It's got a super bright halogen lamp on it. And it's hotter than all get out. And that lamp will go at some point. And because the projector is so old, the lamp costs like $300. So like, why even bother, right? So I wanted to get a projector that was similar in brightness to the other one. The other one was rated, I think, at 1300 lumens. So this one I can tell you is already looking brighter. And again, we'll see exactly how bright when we've got an image that has more than black on it, because that's all we're looking at the moment. Hey, Tech Time with Eric is here. Thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. And you got the S10 going. Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations. That is really cool. You should, if you do a video about it, which you should, let me know. I'd like to check it out. And Keith says, as an IT guy, 90% of my job is waiting for stuff to update. The other 10% is rebooting stuff. Yeah, that's about what I experience in in my world. I am the, I don't do tech support anymore for a living, but around this house, and the calls that I get from mom and dad and my siblings and my wife inside the house, reboot. Did you reboot? Why don't you reboot? 9 times out of 10, that fixes it. Or there's an update, and then you can reboot. Although today my father called me and said he splits time between Florida and Connecticut here, so he called me and said his Wi-Fi was out of the house. And my dad's got this crazy home theater thing that he had hooked up, so down in the basement is where the cable modem is. And I went down there, and the cable modem just isn't connecting to Comcast, so he's got to call Comcast. So had to toss that one off to the professionals. Michael's got a good point here. Nebulas are dusty. They are dusty, aren't they? He wants his projectors to be smart and sharp and in focus. I don't disagree with that. That is a good point. Harold is wondering, why is everything out of focus? Well, that's a good question. I think the challenge that we have right now, well, first of all, we're still waiting for it to boot up. The challenge that I'm having with this is the fact that it is so, the white text that you see is so bright that the camera's having a hard time dealing with it. So I'm going to have to really poke around here a bit to find a setting on the camera that I think can accurately depict everything. Because the white letters are very bright, and I think it's overpowering the camera based on what we're trying to set up here. So it's a little bit, it may look a little blurry to you. It's also because we're dealing with YouTube compression, which doesn't do well with small, sharp letters like this. Here, I'll zoom in a little bit and see if we can improve it here a bit. But I will say, against a very bright room, this is pretty good. I mean, you wouldn't see, like I can clearly see things across the room here, so there's definitely an improvement. And I think the problem with brightness, and we've seen some very helpful and insightful comments in the chat about this, the problem with brightness is that it is hard in the projector world because I think a lot of people expect it to be as bright as a TV, which it might be on certain colors, but not others, especially in black areas. So you don't get that contrast ratio that you would see with an OLED, for example, right? So that's part of it. All right, let me go back and see. We're just going to wait for that software update to finish. It's 762 megabytes, and that's the Android update for the dongle. So once that one's done, we will. And yes, that was the word I was looking for. It's also blooming on the camera. AJ is on an IT call right now, a job right now, waiting for the vendor to call back. Yeah, I told my dad because I don't have his, I'm not on his account, so I said just call him and tell him, tell him that a lot of that stuff they can fix remotely. Kyle is wondering how my ham radio stuff is going. It's going okay. I just haven't. The problem in my house at night is that I just can't get a quiet moment, and so like, because my daughter is going through some visual therapy, so we have to do these eye exercises with her every night. So between dinner, homework for them is just reading, dinner, reading, pajamas, teeth brushing, second part of eye therapy exercises, and then bedtime. By the time and my daughter likes me to be in the room with her while she falls asleep. So after all of that, it's like 10 o'clock, and then it's like, oh, I'm too tired to study. So I'm a little behind, but I've got 2 train trips into New York City, and I think I can get through the remainder of the study component, and then I can start practicing the exam. And I think I'll be ready to go in a week or two, because I don't want to. I want to get my test done before they change the questions, because that exam is changing in a month or two. Matt Anderson says, what movie or game? So that game is a game. It's the Xbox game Black, which was a first-person shooter on the original Xbox. And so this was not something that I stole from Blockbuster, but for a while what they had, I was a subscriber to Blockbuster's mail-in service. And I'm telling you, that was the best deal ever, because it cost the same as Netflix. They would send the movies in the mail to you like Netflix would. But you could take the movies to Blockbuster. Instead of mailing them back, you bring them to Blockbuster, and you could swap it for a movie in the store. So I would go to Blockbuster like 2 or 3 times a week. This was before kids, so we had time to watch stuff on TV. I would go to Blockbuster 2 or 3 days a week and never have to pay for anything in the store. And I was thinking, how can Blockbuster survive with this brick and mortar store that nobody's paying anything for when they walk in the door? Because we used to drop $15 a weekend just on a movie rental and some popcorn or whatever. And obviously it didn't play out. But what they allowed you to do as well was, in addition to the movies being swapped out, you would get 2 coupons a month for free game rentals. And then you could just keep the game, and they would charge you the used price for it. So it was like $39 or whatever. It was a lot cheaper than the game was new. So that's how I ended up with the box. And how I remembered that, I don't know. And Ozzy, I'm very sorry to hear that you're in the hospital. I hope you're doing okay. But I'm glad you're on the mend. It looks like you're a pretty active guy there with the image there. So hopefully you're in better shape now. But yeah, we'll stream for at least another half hour, 45 minutes until we get something on this projection screen. So hopefully you're doing okay. Here he wants to know, I believe India is one of the countries where they will be selling that. Matt Anderson says, good stuff. Yep, it was a lot of fun to have Blockbuster do what they did back in those days. And C-Streb, be careful on my travels. Yeah, it's been going around here as well. I've been exposed a couple of times already in the last month or two. But I had it back around Christmas, and I was fully vaxxed and boosted and all that good stuff. So I would expect, if I did catch it again, for it to not be that bad. But I'm not taking any chances. And the train that I take is still requiring masking. All right, so we are connected to the internet again. All right, let's get my password back in there. Mr. Pixel, does this projector have active link to be powered on over HDMI signal? That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one. I bet you it's probably got some, it probably has the HDMI CEC. Yeah, I got to tell you, looking at the image, it actually, it looks good. And I do have their other one here somewhere, so I'm going to hook that one up. Brian Parker let us borrow that. I'll do a side-by-side so we can get a better feel for it. But this gradient image actually does give me some indicator of the brightness level. And I'll zoom in on it a little bit so you can get a feel for it. It looks pretty good, I have to say. Like I said, I'm having a hard time getting the camera to really, because it actually looks, the image looks better to me in person than it does for you right now. I may kill the lights. I'm going to kill the lights in a little bit anyhow, and we'll make some more camera adjustments until we get this thing figured out. All right, so I'm going to sign into my Google account. And I think we're all done with updates now. Well, I guess all the apps have to update now, right? Is that how it usually goes? I think that's what happens next. All right, so I'm going to get that put in there. And then I got to type in my password. It's a lot quicker to use the keyboard on my desk than the remote control. And it's got to verify that it's me. So we're going to do that real quick. It's me. And it's the dongle is running Android 10, by the way. All right, terms of service. We'll agree to whatever the heck they're making us agree to. I don't know what I'm doing here. All right, I'm not modeling good practices here, but I'm trying to just get this thing up and running. All right, so yeah, I'm going to have it install all this stuff except, because I have RetroArch now, so we can just forego that. And get rid of Google Duo. These two are being installed by default. Yeah, I think we're good. And then I'll have some other things that we'll put on afterward. All right, yada, yada, yada. I know how all these things work. And it's got a Google remote thing in there, too. And now this one, it says to pick a TV and then choose Anker, and that allows me to control the volume. It's just funny that you would not, like you would think they would put Anker like front and center. No, I guess it's not on here. Remember they said to like choose Anker or something when we set it up? We'll have to come back to that later. All right. And now it wants to update my all right. Update the remote. Why not? Yeah, so here's the remote. Basic transportation. And Amazon customer, thank you for the follow. Frank Cromer has a question, Plex question. Have you seen anything about when Plex is going to enable extra content feature on more devices and apps? I have not. They've been doing a lot of updating lately. Whoa, that thing's loud. All right, so what's it doing here? The speaker is pretty nice on it. Okay, so now I've got to go to projector control. What is the brand of the TV? Oh, it's telling me what to do here. All right, let me see. It's going through this so quickly I can't see what it says. Let me zoom in the camera here for a second. Oh, Nebula, okay. Okay, that's what it wants me to do. All right, so we'll try that. All right, so what are we doing here? I've lost control over it. It's like going bonkers. I will say though, that it's got built-in speakers. It sounds good. Like it's got a nice range of sound to it. All right, so I'm gonna I have to go up to the projector here, so bear with me, folks. Okay. Press OK to continue. Okay, here we go. All right, so I can do that later. I guess you can control the volume from the remote. which I guess is going to work over CEC. So I got to tell you, the brightness here is noticeably better than their other projector, and that's with the lights on here. I mean, certainly my lights are washing out things just by the nature of everything, but man, it looks nice and sharp. So let me go and make sure I've got, and this is going to be really hard to convey in the video, because you're not seeing what I'm seeing right now. Unfortunately, it looks so good, and I got to figure out like how to get it to a point where I can demonstrate it. This is going to be one of the challenges, I think, of this projector, is that it looks so much better in person, and especially for the deal that I got on it. My goodness. All right, so let me go and adjust the exposure again and see if I can get it closer. I'm going to get it on something that's a little more fixed. And I'm going to have to do the side-by-side comparative with the other projector, because it's going to be really hard to talk about the brightness and image quality without, I think, a comparative. Because I am shooting it against a wall, it's going to be really hard. And ham radio crash course, thank you very much. Yeah, we're getting there. Almost there. It's not difficult. I will say that the test has a lot of depth to it, which I did not expect as much depth as there was. Not that I'm complaining about it. I think it's good that they make you understand what you're doing before you jump into it. But for me, I'm just kind of I just want to be like a digital dude. That's what I want to do. Yeah, so here's an example of the challenge I'm going to have. So look how weird that blue looks. It does not look that weird to me. So this is going to be a really difficult project here. All right. Yeah, I got to select Nebula, so I will do that in a minute. NC Strev wants to know, would I get blocked if I played one of the Netflix image and sound test clips? I probably will not. So if you could maybe in the chat just direct me to what one you're looking for. I think they've got like ones that do like the HDR and everything else, right? What I want to do first here is go and just make sure that we're in the 4K mode. I still can't believe they sent me the 4K one by accident. Don't tell anybody. All right, so we're going to go into device preferences. Actually, I want to go back to display. I think there's a separate option for the TV settings. Yeah, TV settings. Let's see what we got here. All right, yeah, display. Okay. Screen resolution. Yeah, it's at 4K 60. And it's got adaptive HDR enabled. Good Lord. All right. Boy, did I end up with a deal here. Okay, so now I have a 4K YouTube video, and it is, and I'll turn the lights off in a minute too. We'll look at it with the lights and without the lights. Yeah, Lon.TV. I have this video I shot in Nantucket, which is what I use for all these tests. And the good thing is I used YouTube audio, and it's my own footage. And this is a 60 frames per second video. So let's take a look at that. Yeah, it's going to be such a pain to adjust this. Let's pull up the stats for nerds. Where's the... Oh, it's only... Yeah, it's forced it to 4K. And we'll turn the stats for nerds on. There we go. So, it says the viewport is only 1080p. So I wonder if this app is not, like, if YouTube is not recognized as it's not recognized again as a 4K display. I should probably plug my NVIDIA Shield in, because the viewport is 1080. It should be like, but it is playing back perfectly. And I'm going to get a little closer to it. It is loud too, as you can hear. It looks, honestly, it looks absolutely spectacular. I wish I could show you how good it looks. I'm gonna have to really work on this. Because even with these lights on, it is crisp, it is visible, and I don't even think we're getting a true 4K image out of this, because the viewport is still at 1080, and I think that's an app issue. But it is sharp and crisp and visible, even in like the full light here. So we'll wait for the video to finish, and then I'm going to turn the lights off. And then I'm going to hook my NVIDIA Shield up, because that will do a true 4K. All right, so let's go back and start it from the top here in the dark. That yellow is yellow. My goodness, that looks good. Holy mackerel. Wow, it is stunningly good. All right, so let me see what you see. Look how good that looks. Oh my gosh, that actually, yeah, that looks pretty accurate to what I'm seeing. Even the contrast on the, you know, look how good that looks. My goodness. And it looked really good just in regular light, but so Mark was asking about the speed. Yeah, I think that aux line is probably a line out. I'll double check on that. And I think it supports Bluetooth also. But wow, does that look good? Look how crisp that is. Holy mackerel. Yeah, if I was like just standing next to it, I was just blown away by it. And right now it just says the viewport is 1080, so we're going to hook an NVIDIA Shield up. I just happen to have one on the floor here, along with all my other garbage. So let me hook that up in a second here, and we'll see how that does. But that's, whew, look at that. Yeah, it looks pretty close to that. I am seeing a little bit more of a contrast, or a little less contrast on the background, but that's kind of just due to the white wall. But whoa, pretty impressive. I don't think it's Atmos though. I think it's because I know the dongle doesn't support Atmos, and it's just, you know, a 2.0 or a 2.1 with like a woofer or something. But holy moly, does that look good? Okay, so let me get my NVIDIA Shield out. Yeah, part of the challenge of this is going to be trying to explain. There's a lot to explain. All right, so let me go find my Shield, because I just want to see if I'm not getting the right, if I was just getting an upscaled 1080p, because that might point to some weaknesses of its dongle, especially if you're looking to consume 4K YouTube on this. Let me find, oh, here it is. So let's get the NVIDIA Shield hooked up. And I'm going to just go on Wi-Fi today with it. And I just bought, the other day, I bought a remote, a new remote, because my other remotes were all dying. I just got to find the box for it. So you can use, by the way, the new Shield remote works with the old Shield. So I'm just going to pair that remote up with it. All right, so we're going to plug an HDMI in now. Yeah, and the fan, people were asking about the fan. It is very minimal. Like it's certainly there and humming away, but it's not very loud. Now I just plugged in the HDMI and it automatically switched over. So we are now on the shield. It's going to be hard to discern which one is which. So I'm going to plug that in, which is my keyboard, and I'm going to get my remote going here. But wow, it's pretty good. Okay, so we got a couple of things we got to set up on this first. It's going. The focus is my camera. Because it's so bright, the camera's like having some focus issues, so we got to adjust that real quick. But I do have my new remote, and I bought this specifically for this reason, because this shield that I have down here is the one I use whenever I'm demoing something, and I never have a working remote for it. So I figured, you know what, I'll just buy, it's a production supply, if you will. So I was like, you know, let's just get a remote. So that is what I did. Here it is. They actually package it very nicely. And let's get the batteries going here. They actually changed the design slightly. Yeah, they changed the design. There's a little lock on it now. Before there wasn't. My remote upstairs, every time I drop it, like the whole thing like falls apart. Of course, now I don't know how to open it up. I may not need to, is it? No, it's not plugged in. These are not rechargeable either. They use batteries. The batteries might be in a different compartment here. Bear with me, folks. I just got to get this thing open. Looks like one of those candy bars, those Toblerone, whatever they call them. Push slide. Yeah, I'm trying to push it. It's not... Which do I push down or up, I guess is the question. Because now it's got this locking mechanism on it, which makes it hard to get into it. What I'm going to do, screw it. I've got my keyboard here, so I'll just go and adjust things this way. All right, so let's take a look at... Okay, so here is display and sound. Okay, so it detected everything, 4K, 59, 940. Okay. We're good there. So I just need to get into this remote to fight with it. It looks like it slides off, but I can't get it to slide in any direction. An ink pen helps. Thank you, Michael Kidd. I got some experts in here who have fought with this long before. There we go. Thank you. That did the trick. A little pen and a push. And now it is open. And there's batteries in here. I wonder if they're dead. Because it's not lighting up or anything. There's like no thing to like peel off with it either. They shipped it with dead batteries. Which means the longer this sits in the warehouse, the longer this thing is going to collect battery acid. All right, so let's go in and I got to connect it to my Wi-Fi. Hang on a second here. Let's go turn Ethernet off. And we'll connect it to my Wi-Fi. It's funny, ever since I plugged the shield in, the camera's having a hard time focusing on it. And we'll play the same video. Maybe the batteries need a firmware update. That's probably the case. It didn't like my Wi-Fi password. That is my Wi-Fi password. Now, the difference, by the way, between the dongle and the... Oh, that's another good point. If it's got a Widevine issue, it might have trouble doing 4K. All right, hang on a second here. If this doesn't work, I'll just plug Ethernet into it. It just doesn't seem to... There it goes. Okay, now it's connected. All right, so we're going to repeat the same thing that we just did and look at... we're going to look at the same video we just watched. So we'll try again here. And so now we're on the shield and not on the internal dongle. And Jolt Dude said his glucose meter came with, yeah, that's not something you want to have come with dead batteries, right? And the one thing that I miss about the remote is that it doesn't have private listening like the original one did. So when I bought the original Shield, it came with a game controller and it came with a remote, both of which had a headphone jack on it. It's funny, the Shield is not the same product that they thought it was going to be when they released it, but it is still the same product today, if that makes sense. All right, so now we're going to load that video up again. And I'm going to rewind it here a little bit. And bear with me here for a second. And I want to see if I can get the stats for nerds up here. So let's go to the gear. And okay, so we're at 2160p. I'm going to force it though, just to make sure that I've got it where I want. I have a little bit of latency on my camera, so I'm like, all right, so we're going to force it at 2160p. And we're going to turn the stats for nerds on. All right, there we go. All right, that'll go away in a second here. It should at least. Oh, shoot. See, I was too impatient. All right, so let's start from the beginning. And don't worry about the drop frames. You know what's, okay, so yeah, so what's interesting here, and we'll let that start up. What's interesting about what we're seeing here is that this is playing at the 4K, whereas before it was doing that, it was not, so you see how it says 1080p times 2, which means we're getting a 4K resolution out of this. It looks great though, doesn't it? I mean, it is amazingly good, my goodness. Especially with the lights off. And this is with the NVIDIA Shield. Wow. Yeah. What's amazing is that it's maintaining a really good contrast ratio, which you would not expect out of a projector against a white wall, right? But it's so you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to play it with the lights on just to see what it looks like. I'm going to have a hard time like recording this video later because there's so much. Michael says it looks good for a, yeah, that's always the other problem, right? Yeah, I should see if I'm playing the Batman on there and see how it looks. All right, so let's go back to the beginning here. And I'm going to turn the lights back on. I just want to see what that looks like. So now the lights are back on. And it definitely washes out a bit just because you lose, you know, a little bit of the, you know, your substrate becomes whiter, right? It's a little harder to, let's see what we get here. Let it start back up. But all of the detail, you know, anything that's not, it's hard to explain. But I mean, the bottom line is that if you are in an office and you have overhead lights or you got light coming in from outside, you're going to have a very visible presentation. Yeah, this looks close to what I'm seeing. So I think whatever camera settings I have, I should probably make note of them. But you see you're getting a good amount of, when you have color, right, or that looks good. So now I'm going to go back to the dongle now, because what I am curious about is whether or not it supports 4K Netflix stuff, right? Because that might be something we'll want to know. All right, so let's get out of here. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to reconnect to, I haven't gotten all the controls mapped. So we're going to reconnect to the dongle. How it says to insert the dongle and get the best experience. And so let me pull this out. All right, so we're going to go back to the dongle. And now I'm curious. I got to sign in. Let me do that real quick. Because if you can't access 4K Netflix on a 4K projector, like what is that going to do, right? All right, so let me go over to Netflix. So I ended up with a deal and a half on this, in case those of you that are just tuning in. So what happened was I bought this from their Kickstarter, and my intention was to only get the 1080p version. And I ended up, when I opened, I did not open this up until today. Like I had it in the box. Let me turn this off before I get dinged for that. I had it in the box for about almost a month. It came a little while ago, but I wanted to wait for it to show up in retail so people knew where to find it. And I don't have a lot of context to other high-end projectors, and I think that's going to be some of what I talk about. But from what I'm seeing on this thing, it is remarkably good, especially just the, even in room lighting where you've got a lot of light coming in, it's surprisingly good. All right, so I'm going to pop into my account here. And what I'm most curious about is, okay, so it is saying that it will do 4K HDR, which this supports. So this supports HDR10, and even the 1080p one does HDR10. And the problem is I can't show you what I'm watching right now because that would be a copyright issue. But this is Ozark. I'm just going to step ahead here. I'm just looking at it for... Yeah, it looks pretty good. All right, let's see if we can find the test stuff. That might be something we can watch on here. So I guess if I can just search for test, maybe? Let's see, test. Because I know they've got a bunch of test patterns. Here we go. All right, so let's go look at test patterns, because that I can show you. And let's take a look at the different episodes that we have here. So we have, oh, they got a bunch of them. So you got like PAL and 30 FPS and 24. That's the one thing, I don't know, I'm not sure if this has a 24p mode. That would be a good question. All right, so here's one, 30, this is 4K with HDR. The color looks, yeah, I didn't switch it into the right mode. It doesn't look right. Let's go back to that. Oops. The problem is these descriptions aren't that long, so you can't see exactly what it's. All right, this is the 60 frames per second. That looks fine. But what's remarkable is how much of a usable image that you get even in room lighting like I've got here. Pretty cool. And Big Buck Bunny is royalty free. Okay. Maybe I'll try that one too. So to Ozzy's question, the dongle is installed externally. And I think the reason it is installed externally is twofold. One, I think, is to prevent having to have the internals get obsolete. But I think there's also a requirement about Netflix doesn't allow people to install the app on a projector internally. So I think that's part of it. And oh, Lo and Papa is going to give me a whole bunch of Creative Commons stuff I can look at. Awesome. That's going to be really helpful for future videos too. And here's another issue. Metamerism. Hey, Lo and Papa, if you have trouble with pasting that in, send me an email at Lon.TV and I can archive it for future references there. But it looks good. One last thing I want to do before I have to run is hook up my switch. So we're going to do that real quick. So let me get my HDMI cable out for that. Oops. Oh, no. Just lost that little thing there. All right. And by the way, whenever people need a projector to borrow, I'm like the guy that lends it to them. So that's another reason why I have projectors. All right, let me undo that. Plug this in. We're going to get the switch hooked up here. And it will automatically switch to the HDMI when you connect it. And it looks like it just turned itself off, but I have to turn it back on. Let me turn on the switch. And we'll get that going. And then I've got to really organize myself around how I'm going to cover this thing. All right, let's power that back on there. And from a gaming standpoint, DLP is typically pretty good for latency. At least that's been my experience in the past. Got to get this controller connected here, and then we can continue onward. There we go. Although I will say I'm picking up a little bit of lag here. But the game, I don't know if you, let me show you can see the game here. It actually looks pretty good on the screen. And the speakers are loud. Okay, yeah, you see it. Okay. Here, I'll kill the lights here again so you can get a better look at it. This is a 1080p 60. I mean, if you didn't know any better, you'd be looking at a TV screen on your wall. Like I would say that the quality of the image on my wall right now is probably better than my low-end TV that I've got in the other part of the room here. Like that's how good this looks. Yeah, it doesn't feel like there's much of a lag on it, but there's probably, if I measure it, I'm sure I'm going to see more of a lag than like my OLED TV. And I think what I'm going to do here, I'm like not capturing any B-roll. So let me do that real quick so I get at least something done during the stream today. Let me hit record here. Okay. But the image quality, as you can see, is just spectacular out of this. And I think that's what makes the difference, is that you have a bright enough lamp to really make this work, and it looks really, really good. Now, the maximum recommended image size, they say, is 150 inches. And I will measure out what I have here. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the light on, just so that we can get a bit of a contrast difference there. I mean, certainly you lose a lot of the contrast, but you don't lose the detail because, right? So, you know, no matter what, it's going to be a lot brighter than their other ones. You're also paying a lot more. But what's really remarkable about it is it's the detail. You know, it looks like a TV screen. You know, insofar as how it, you know, there's a lot of precision to the detail, if that makes sense. Now, what's supposed to happen here is if I walk in front of it, supposedly it has some human detection, but it doesn't seem to be detecting me. I didn't look at the lens, though, so I'm probably okay. All right, that was good. I think that'll be some good B-roll. Oh, yeah, so the dongle does show Netflix in 4K. Yep. So YouTube, though, wasn't. YouTube was not doing the 4K window there. And there was a question about game mode. That's a good question. Let me take a look at that. And here's some, by the way, these are Creative Commons files on Netflix for everybody who's interested. Matthew Kelly is here. Hello there. Yes, my AV department, that's what I got. I'll tell you what, this is why I do these live streams. I've got some really helpful people that come in and help. All right, let me go back to point 1 here. So let's see if there's a game mode on this. And just so everyone who's tuning in, I had bought this through their crowdfunding thing, the Kickstarter. And I had ordered the 1080p version, and this is the one that showed up. So I ended up with a much better one than I had anticipated. But I think the 1080p one is going to do just as well. All right, so let's see. The question was, is there a game mode on this? And the speakers are great on it, too. Let's go into the HDMI. All right, so that's just adjusting the input. And it accepts HDMI 2, so you can plug in, as we did earlier, the NVIDIA Shield. So the brightness is cranked. There is a game mode. So that will adjust the... And it made it a little bit dimmer, actually. No, it's still pretty bright. Yes, I'll have it in that mode for the latency test that I'll do on it. And the image correction, let's see what we have in here. So it's auto keystoning now, which actually is fine, so it's sitting flat. There's not a lot in the way of settings on here. And it also works as a Bluetooth speaker if you wanted to do something like that. It supports 3D, apparently. Hopefully I'm not blocking your view. Oh, here's the smart solutions. Let's see what this does here. Turning off eye guard will stop the the eye guard pop-ups. Okay. I don't believe is it right now? Okay. Oh, do not shield the projector lens in case of high temperature damage. What does that mean? Yes, it's super bright. Oh, I see. So to protect your eyesight, please. Okay, see what it's doing here? So it'll auto dim it if it detects somebody in front of it. So let me close my, here, let me do another B-roll run here. I'll close my eyes and see if it'll, see what it'll do here. Ugh. Oh no, did I have that up the whole time? I don't think I did. Let's see. Sorry, everybody, I'm just going through some B-roll collection. I had meant to capture a lot more B-roll than I am at the moment, so I'm trying to just get caught up on that. All right, so this is the B-roll we collected. And that is with the lights on. This is when I turn the lights on right here, so you can see the difference. So we got that. That's good. Okay. All right. J-Boy, yes, it did have a firmware update, so it did deal with that. Yeah, no, this one's actually legit. This is like a legitimately good projector, but that's why it's expensive. So, and yeah, so, and just so everyone understands what happened, I did the Kickstarter, and they usually put their projectors on Kickstarter before they do anything else. And I went with the 1080p one because it's significantly less expensive if you pre-order on that. And there's a couple of companies that I'll do crowdfunding with. It's these guys and what's the other one? Those phones that I review. Unihertz. So those are the two that I tend to gravitate towards. And so I said, what the heck, because I needed a new projector for all the stuff that I do around town. So I said, I'm going to get a new projector. And the price for the brightness level and the resolution at 1080p was better than what I was seeing with other more traditional halogen or whatever based projectors. Because I wanted something a little bit bright. I wanted something at least at the level of brightness, which I think my last one was like 1,200 lumens or 1,000 lumens. I wanted it close to that. This one is 2,400, depending on how you measure it, but that's how these things always go. And this one kind of checked all the boxes, so I said, oh, I'll order it. And then it shows up, and I got a 4K projector. Shiak wants to know what's the temperature in the room. It's not very warm. I'm surprised. It is. I have my heater off. It is warming up the room a little bit. I'm just going to go over and look at or put my hand next to it. Surprisingly, it definitely gives off some heat on the left-hand side. That's where the fan exhausts, but it's not running hard. Like you can't, obviously the speakers are up right now, but it's not very hot. I'm surprised that it's not running hotter. My other one runs a lot hotter than this one does. All right, I've got a few more minutes, so I think what I want to do now is hook up the other projector. So I have their other one. And what I wanted to do was just a little B-roll, like of a side-by-side, to get a comparison of everything. So this one, courtesy of our friend Brian Parker, I still have to, he wants me to sell this for him, so I need to do that. So this is their other one. This is the Nebula Mars 2. And this one is, as you'll see in a minute, is going to be much dimmer. So we're going to set it up, kind of do a side-by-side, and see how it does. But yeah, it's using a laser. I don't know what the laser is made out of. I got to do a little bit more research as to how the laser works to project the image. But it is remarkably bright. I don't think it goes through a lot of, they rated it 25,000 hours of continuous usage. So as of now, we're about 24,000 hours left. But it's a lot. I mean, my other projector, it's so hot, and you have to like leave it after you turn it off because otherwise it gets all out of whack. So you could kill the bulb, you don't want to touch the bulb, all that kind of stuff. All right, so the next thing I want to do here is get another table and set this one up. And this is like their, now granted, the price differential here is not even in the same ballpark, but I think it'd be helpful just to have a little side-by-side, and I just need to find I guess I'll put it on a tripod. I'm going to put it on a tripod just to get a side-by-side on this. Give me 1 second here, folks, to set that up. And hopefully everybody's doing well today. But what's good is that this one, the one that I'm hooking up to it, or that I'll be putting side by side, is kind of like your typical projector that you would be looking at if you were looking at this one. Like, what's the difference between $800 and $2,400? So we'll see where it goes. It is a lot tinier, by the way, J-Boy. Laserdisc says it's a laser lunchbox. It sure is, isn't it? It kind of looks like that. Here, I'll put the image back up here so you can. It's ridiculous how good it looks. Now, granted, this is the first laser projector I have ever played with, so perhaps I'm being wowed by the laser technology, and there might be even better ones out there. I don't know, and it's not a short throw, right? So there's always going to be that comparative there. All right, so I'm going to figure out a way to get these two things side by side here. So give me a second to get everything hooked up. And I got to find the power cable. And of course, oh no, the power cable is not with it at the moment. Shoot. I may not be able to do this right away, but let's see. We'll figure it out. If there's enough battery, well, actually no, the battery, when you have it on battery, it runs lower. There is no battery on this one either, so it has to be plugged in. And of course, they recommend that you purchase their battery things to power the other one. And where did I put the other projector? Here it is. Just got to put my little tripod plate on the bottom here. I did get rid of the Jim Bob, otherwise I would put the two side by side. But all right, so this one requires, what does it need for power? It's DC. And it just dimmed out there just because the switch goes dim if it's not active for a short period of time. All right, and I just need to track down its power supply, which may be easier said than done at the moment. See, this is my problem, is that I move on to the next project, and a lot of times I'm like, oh, time to move on to the next project, and what do you know, I misplace things or put things in the wrong spot, and then I end up with a power supply that goes to something, and I'm like, where does this thing go with? All right, hang on a second. DC output. 19 volts. What does this one use? Yeah, I'm going to have to come back to this. So I do not want to plug the wrong thing into it. I think this one might be it, but I'm not sure. So before I plug in something and explode it on air, I'm going to just double check everything. So anyway, I got more to do, and I will be back with a review of this thing, and we'll figure out the rest of it from there. Frank Cromer, glad to hear that he's on the Amazon chat. Glad to hear that everything is working there. And I started being one of those people that labels everything, and then I stopped. So there you go. All right. Well, everybody, I gotta run because I gotta go find the power supply. I gotta record some more B-roll, and my hope is to record this review tomorrow because I've definitely had a lot to work on here. So this thing's pretty impressive, and I ended up with a better deal than I thought. So good deal all the way through. So stay tuned. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and like I said, I'll have some more for you all when I get things a little bit more organized here. But I just wanted to get it hooked up and kind of get some first impressions and share those with you. So I think we're on our way, as they say, and there will be a lot more to come. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And we got some discussion about Laserdisc. I have a Laserdisc player at I think at my mom's place. I still have one over there. I was big into Laserdisc. Still am. It was a great format. All right. Okay, so let me get myself organized here, and I will be back. So stay tuned because I've got more streaming to do. Probably do some streams over the weekend because I've got business trips now on Monday, like next week, and back and forth, and all sorts of stress. But good deal. All right, everybody, thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed it. I've got more to do and more to come, so stay tuned. We will be back with the projector, and have a nice afternoon. Talk to you a little bit. Bye-bye.